Ian from AnandTech, and you're watching a video coinciding with ASUS's ROG 10th anniversary. Now, as part of the show, they've done a couple of press conferences, one on their Zen line and one related to ROG. And we attended that, and there were a few really interesting items at the press conference. One of which is this. This is ROG Avalon. Now, I managed to collar the ASUS guys for a little time after the show ended on one of the show days, and essentially we're going to go through it and take it apart. And joining me today...
I'm Johnathan Chu, and I'm a product manager for ROG motherboards.
And Avalon, it looks like it's been in development for a while, but I saw it yesterday, and it's just a slightly different take on engineering. I mean, you think about motherboards, and you think about PCs, and it's pretty much all ATX with graphics cards and memory, and this is a little different take, and I quite like it just purely on the engineering facts. So, Avalon, how did the project start?
Well, so as a product manager for motherboards, right? There's a lot of it becomes immediately obvious all the restrictions of the ATX form factor. When you're designing a case, and then you're designing a motherboard, and these two teams are working completely independently of each other. There's a lot of specifications that have to be fixed before development even starts. And so what this does is it just imposes a lot of limitations on what can be done with the motherboard, and what can be done.
So this is just politics,
I suppose, but it's more like for us, right? I just really wanted a chance to kind of experience what it would be like to design something where we can remove all those restrictions and see what we can implement and what we can change in the DIY process to make things easier for the user. So that was kind of the starting point for all of this.
When you took this through me yesterday, one of the first things I saw, and I'm gonna put it out here, is this. Now, motherboards are all about modularity. You can change your CPU, change your memory, change your GPU. And you can pick and choose whatever. Now, Avalon has a changeable rear I/O panel. So, this is a case of if the I/O panel is made with the amount of USB ports you need, or the outputs you need, or you need more network ports, or you need Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm looking at here, this is the Virtual Reality Edition rear I/O. So it has all the I/O ports needed for a VR headset, USB and HDMI. But you also showed me a workstation variation and an audio
home theater.
A home theater one. Now, something as complicated as rear I/O as it looks on the motherboard, you see all the traces, you see all the chips. And if you're really into motherboards, you can kind of work out how everything goes. And to do everything on a external connector. If we look at this connector, we've got lots of pins. This is something custom you guys have done internally, and you're just passing chipset data.
Directly through this connector. So we're kind of defining the pinout for this connector, and a lot of the signaling, these days, especially for the mainstream chipsets, they come a lot larger from the just directly from the PCH.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them also end up being, some of the Flex IO, which allows you to kind of repurpose the pins, or a lot of it is just a PCIe signal.
It's just PCI spec, so Thunderbolt and Ethernet. As long as you have the controllers, it's good to go.
Right, exactly. And so because you're using this PCIe as a universal kind of bus, you can increase the amount of flexibility you have with the back I/O, and create things like the workstation module that has a dual NIC, and it also has a built-in M.2 slot that runs PCIe 4.
Oh yeah, I remember you showing me that, because the board itself inside has one, and then the rear I/O also has another, which were both RAID capable. Right,
and so you can
mix and match
range, and according to your needs. Not everybody needs M.2 RAID. Some people need the extra USB 3.1 connectors.
I know some people are going to say, well, hang on, it's just one system. There's not going to be many modules for sale. Is it going to be an actual product? And to be honest, I don't care about all that. I just like the fact that it's been done. Right. And a lot of people have been very vocal about the stagnation of the motherboard industry. Oh, it's just everything new with RGB lights. And I think this is something that could become special if it's adopted widely.
Right.
I mean, mind you, this is a custom system, so whether you'd see it on, PCs built at home is one other thing. That's for business people to sort out.
Right.
I just really like the engineering.
Right.
But Avalon itself, there's a custom mini ITX. Essentially, it's a mini ITX motherboard.
Right, but with 4 DIMMs.
Yeah, with 4 DIMMs. We've actually got some of the PCBs, in the arrangements to show, but I essentially wanted to take it apart.
Okay.
So this is your product, and I will break it if I touch it. So go for it.
Okay, so I guess from the very, very top, right, you can open it up, pop off the top, and you have immediate access to the most critical components. You have easy access to the CPU, you have easy access to the DRAM and the M.2. Because of the case design, the motherboard is actually closer to the exterior of the case than it otherwise would be in a normal case, which allows you to access things very nicely.
And as this design, I mean, obviously, if it ever came to final product, it would change depending on what was happening. But this is currently supporting Skylake.
Right. This is a Z170 chipset.
Yeah. And CPUs up all the way up to the top ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the right side over here, we've kind of isolated the video card. So, it'll handle any 2-slot standard video card up to 30 centimeters in length. And then we also have left, areas here for using a EK Predator for a custom AIO.
Yeah.
Or water loop. And it's, designed to accept, a lot of mainstream components. And then on the left here, or my left, you have room for either a 240 radiator or 2 120 millimeter fans.
Well, when you showed this to me, I automatically said, how about a second graphics card?
Right. So that's the thing about this form factor. It's more, like you said earlier, you care about the engineering. And
yeah.
So for us, a lot of people have been talking about the stagnation of the DIY industry, the motherboard industry. Yeah. And this is more just, hey, look, we can do this stuff. You guys just got to ask for it.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of showing, the first build, because I understand that, SLI is often talked about feature, but an often unused feature.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of first designed just to meet the needs of maybe 90% of the people with the single slot. But, if an SLI variant was, needed, we can kind of,
It's interesting you bring up the fact that, if you want it, let us know.
Right.
Because every time I speak to your execs and your PMs, and I say, well, why haven't you tried this? Why haven't you tried this? People haven't told us they want it.
Right.
So I fully implore everybody, if you want something on a system, talk about it. The more people that talk about it, the more these guys pick it up, and the more you may see it in a system.
Right.
Going back to this, at the front, I know there's some removable SSD cages.
Right. So over here we have the SSD bay, which we've designed to be really easy to install and remove. And this is a completely trayless new style, and we were able to do this because since now we're in control of the case and the motherboard, right? We can have the PCB in the back to support to provide the signal and the power, and we also have the ability to limit this to 2.5 inch drive.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of case vendors are like, well, maybe some people want the 3.5, maybe some people want the 2.5, maybe they don't want the 7 millimeter, they want the 9 millimeter.
Maybe they want it here, maybe they want it here.
Yeah, and so by kind of adding a little bit more restriction, you get a little bit more ease of use, and so that's kind of the trade-off.
Yeah, yeah. As far as the modularity goes, I mean, at the minute you have.
So this is
you can take it out. I can't.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
So it uses.
So yeah, this is the power supply module, right? And we've designed it. We've kind of had this technology for a long time, and what it does is it uses like an edge connector similar to server PSUs. And by using this, we can allow the power supply just be like a module, and you just plug it in. And then,
so if you want 550, you want 650, you want 750, it just goes straight in.
Yep.
As long as it fits the size spec.
Right. So this is just like a 600 watt SFX power supply that we've modified.
Yeah.
To be able to operate into the machine.
Yeah, as it stands, I mean, it's an aluminium and steel design, so it's quite heavy. It's designed just to sit on the desk. And you see here, the air driven is by the grills, and we have the ROG logo, because it coincides with 10th anniversary and everything else. let's go to the PCBs,
Sure.
because if you noticed earlier, going over the top, you can't see any voltage regulation, because that's on the bottom side of the motherboards. And if you ever know anything about designing PCBs, doing stuff on both sides of the PCB just exacerbates the cost. The minute you start moving parts to the rear, it just makes it more complicated to manufacture. So here we have the top side, which is literally here. And we've got the socket for Skylake, LG A1151, memory with single side latches, DDR4. I assume the idea is to support XMP profiles up to a certain amount. 2-digit debug, which is always handy when you can see through the transparent case. Supports 8cm, 80mm M.2 fan headers, of course, but it comes to the rear. So anybody who's interested in motherboard design knows that the socket is where it is, and we have the power delivery modules, the VRMs and the chokes, usually in that sort of L shape, but here it's moved to the rear, along with the power supply connector, your PCIe slot, this funny looking lane, which is essentially a PCIe type of connection, and that carries the SATA data paths plus also power for the 4 drives at the front. We'll get to the PCB in a second. 24-pin power, 2 USB Type-C. These are USB 3.1 using the ASMedia ASM 1142 controller. Buttons and audio. Actually, what audio chip are you using?
I believe
Cirrus.
There's a Cirrus chip in there.
So normally you'd stick a Realtek ALC 1150, but you've gone for a 2.1 Cirrus codec.
Well, right now for this one, there's some concern over if you're using the AFP, there's the signal degradation. So we wanted to have a high quality output for the front panel as well. It's increasingly important.
Well, if you're ever involved in PCB design, especially this, when Intel sends out the specifications, you always have path limits for signal integrity. And I know from the chipset you have only so many inches to play with. So using boosters plus high quality components helps with that. So that's the main PCB. Let's bring out some of the others.
So this would be the power distribution PCB, and it connects via the 24-pin.
So the power supply goes in here. So if you remember that connector.
Actually, there's one more adapter board which allows the power to come in horizontally rather than vertically.
Yeah. Okay. So the power. So you go in through the connector comes in, does the 24-pin, and then you've got your 2 8-pin
PCI powers.
Yeah, PCIe. And then you've got a connector here for the 12-volt 4+4 pin for the CPU, and an additional SATA power, which I assume is for the SATA drives.
Oh no, that would be for like a AIO or something, or like.
Oh, okay, just so extra, for customization and stuff.
Right. If you want to go to semi-water cooling.
Yeah. So that's the power.
Right.
Show me the money. You've got the VGA finger. Let's do that.
VGA. So the VGA fits right here. I mean, this is nothing special. It's just like a standard riser board.
Yeah.
But it just allows us to rearrange the motherboard positioning within the case. Yeah. And that's part of the whole point of this concept.
And then the SATA. Yep. So let's just have a look at the SATA board. It does both, like I said, the power and the data paths. And you may think, hey, that looks nothing special. But stick it in to the board. You do it, I'll break it. Oh no, there we go. And you think, hey, that looks like a mess, or I've seen that on the film Tron. What you've got there is the rest of the rear I/O. So I'll put this down and let's have a look at the other rear I/O panels.
Okay.
So you've got the standard connector again, or the standards, the custom
board-to-board connector.
Yeah. Right. This is the one with the extra M.2, so PCI 3x4. You've got additional audio here. So is that just an additional audio codec, or?
Right, that's just a standard codec.
Oh yeah, a standard 2.1. Then dual NICs. They're both Intel.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then HDMI output. Is that an M.2 Wi-Fi riser?
Yes, that's Wi-Fi wide array.
Yeah,
too, so,
yeah. So that's
that'd
that'd be a by one PCIe by one.
Yeah, a
Just
PCIe
a
by one.
standard Wi-Fi card. Wait. Which model is this?
This is the workstation.
Okay, this is the
Right, the
workstation.
dual NICs and the fastest storage. And then this would be the home theater module. And we have, extra PCB space for, we can include better audio circuitry.
Yep.
For this side mainly this would focus on the audio for the home theater since, you might want something for your nice speakers.
Does having it on that separate PCB help with signal isolation between digital and audio?
I mean, having it separate like this and being able to define these pinouts will allow us to implement a lot better shielding and a lot better,
It's almost to the point where you can do sort of like an internal but USB DAC.
Yeah, you can almost essentially do something like that, and that's part of the beauty of this is it gives us, since these modules, if you put high-end audio, like a very, very high-end audio on a motherboard, right? That's a BOM cost that's fixed for every single motherboard. And so if 10% of the users use it, 100% of the people still have to pay for it. Yeah. And so this allows us to, experiment with even more expensive solutions for those, really niche needs, and the cost would fall completely on those people, whereas, the people who want the dual NICs, so, it's all split up now where we can really tailor things for the user.
Personally, I can just imagine one with using a 10 gig NIC. It's for the Supreme Network implementation.
I mean, I know gigabit internet's being rolled out a lot in America, but there are some. I think Comcast has been. They offer some 2 gig.
Oh yeah, the 2.5 gig and 5 gig, the new standards. So you roll it out into the. Into that space,
right? So you can start preparing for the future, or if you have the need for that, you don't have to replace your whole motherboard anymore. You just replace the module. So it allows a little bit of future proof.
What's the last one?
And the final one is our standard, the VR module, which actually would just be something you would see on a normal ROG motherboard. It's just a plethora of USB ports so that you can support all the peripherals or the VR headsets.
Can you do things like clear CMOS and USB bias flashback through one of these?
Through one of these, I'm sure you could. It depends on how we want to define how many pins we want to include. With those signals, we'd have to just dedicate more pins for those signals. For this board, actually, we do have a clear CMOS right here. Yeah. Okay. So we can clear the CMOS over there, and. Yeah, that's I guess
it's still very a design that's very fluid and in motion.
Right.
This is just enough to show off at Computex.
Right, and so what people can also keep in mind too, a lot of people hear bare bones and they think of those. It's a compromised case with compromised motherboard, but with ROG creating something like this, it's an engineered motherboard with an engineered case, and everything's done in tandem and. So we can, keep a lot of features, even like the QLEDs, which is the CPU, the DRAM, the boot LED, the PC LEDs. Just to help with, additional troubleshooting in case you have any, issues.
I know the answer, but I know people are going to ask. Release date and price point.
Right. So there's no release date for this, right? Because this is our concept. And the whole reason we have this concept is mostly just to kind of try to wake up, the audience and try to get them to stop asking for things. Tell us what you want. Tell us what is crap in this and what needs to be better or what is good, and then we can kind of take it from there and then really create something, good together. And then the price. Well, this is always flexible, This one, as an ROG product is released with enthusiasts in mind, so it would be a Z170 chipset, but for more budget conscious buyers, you could even go into B150 or H, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And so, let us know what you think is a, fair price for this, what you might pay, and we can adjust accordingly. Yeah,
it's like I said at the beginning. It's not necessarily the product as a whole. I find it because obviously that can change and that can, you don't need to have at the minute these are open grills. They could be meshed or whatever, and you can build it down to a price or build it up to a premium.
Right.
It's just the fact that things like this engineering that happens, or that rarely happens in something, you know, in a commercial product. And I'm really glad to see this. I was saying earlier, I'm a big fan of tech showcases. If you go to a car show, they always build, companies always, you know, spend a few weeks building some crazy concept car that nobody's ever going to use. They're never going to sell, but hey, it looks good. And I've spoken to motherboard manufacturers before.
Right.
And they say, well, yes, but then, you know, people expect it to go on sale, or people don't understand the concept of a tech showcase, or it gives competitors ideas.
Right.
But this is something that you guys intend to put into production, you know,
Right.
based on feedback,
Right.
and it's going to be flexible based on what people want to see.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing I'm glad you understand too, you know, because a lot of people, or some people, you know, they might look at this and consider this as already a product, and they're like, well, you have problems here and you have problems here, and look at this is kind of wonky over here. But you know what? It's really not about this as it is right now. It's about what this represents. And so, yeah, you know, I hope people kind of take this idea and go even crazier with it. You know, if you want to see something that maybe is like circular, or you want to see something that's, you know, whatever floats your boat, you know.
It's
And
like
so,
PCB. That's interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for showing us,
Sure, it's
Rog
my pleasure.
Avalon. I've already spoken to a few other, you know, tech reviewers, and they had mixed reactions. Some liked it, some had some choice words. But hey, something new, something exciting, and I'm glad you've been able to go through it with us. And thanks to you guys for watching. This has been part of our Computex 2016 coverage. Hope you go on the website and read some more of our coverage. I know videos are quite rare on AnandTech, but hey, I managed to grab these guys for a few minutes after the show, just before they turn all the power off in a few minutes. But yeah, thanks for listening.